Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today I got my good friend Flip Otaku. Man, it's been a while since we've been friends for a little bit, but I'm excited to talk to you today, man.
Yeah, me too. And we actually, for those who don't know, we just spent an hour off air shooting the shit, and it felt like I was talking to like a friend I've known my whole life. So, Nathan, you are one of my favorite people. You're one of the people who started this addiction. So I'm sure my wife has a few nice words to say to you.
I hope they are.
Um, but yeah, man, I was into manga and anime, and I've always loved films a lot, and I'm sure we'll get into that. I've always been a fan of films, but I told myself I can't have two hobbies. I can't be collecting comic books, and I can't be collecting movies. So I eventually sold most of my comic books to collect movies. So it's all because of you and Aaron and Brian and all those great people.
Well, I'm just a small part of it, but and the funny thing is that behind the scenes for for a lot of us, there's a constant like it's like, hey, buy it. Very much like we're all devils on each other's shoulders, and I
Oh
I
yeah.
love it. I mean, we're all addicted to it, but at the same time, like it's something that we're like really passionate about. Like, and I know you are, and we care about the things that we're like buying, consuming, or watching, or reading, or whatever that is. Like, it's stuff that we actually like love, talking about and actually like love
Yep.
exploring. Because I mean, not to get too far into it, because we haven't gotten too far into the film journey, but like we all, I mean, we learn so much from these things that we spend our life kind of preparing for. I don't know. So anyway, got all philosophical. I've had a long day.
Yeah,
um
I what I love about this hobby is that everyone has such different tastes, like such vastly different tastes. Like Aaron Penn is a just a genius when it comes to horror movies. Like that guy, Aaron needs to write a book on horror movies because he is just you can like I can listen to that man talk about stuff. Like I personally am not a big horror movie fan, but he makes me pay attention to horror movies. And because of him, I'm like, maybe I'll pick up some Vinegar Syndrome titles.
yeah,
And then
that's
I
what
did
happened.
it.
That's what happened to me, but you made me buy Vinegar Syndrome stuff.
Dude, speaking of Vinegar Syndrome, they sent so they I bought their Black Friday sale, the one with Beastmaster.
Yeah.
It didn't show up till last week, but it was lost in the mail. And
Oh.
then I emailed them after 3 weeks, and they're like, hey, after a month we'll send you another one. So I waited a month. They said, all right, shipment's going out. They both arrived at the same time, both packages. So, but they one of them didn't have Beastmaster in it, and was it Beastmaster and the Giallo box set. But I have 6 copies of this now, and I have 4 copies of this now. So I'm gonna eventually just sell them. But I'm like, I don't like any movie enough to own 6 copies, let alone some random Mexican
Random movie
horror
you've never
movie.
seen from Vinegar Syndrome.
But yeah, that's the thing is that like I love that everyone seems to have like their label. You know what I mean? Like Aaron's very much Vinegar Syndrome. I think his nickname is what, Mr. Vinegar Syndrome,
Cult of Cinema. Yeah,
Cult
or
of
Mr.
Cinema.
Vinegar's. Yeah.
And then he's also a huge Severin fan. You, I would attach Criterion and Indicator to. And then me, my personal favorite label is definitely Arrow. So, and what I love is that everyone is supportive of like everyone's channel, even if our tastes are just vastly, vastly different. And because of you, I bought all the Hammer box sets, even the ones that were out of print. I bought them all and got into them, and I was like, this isn't my cup of tea. God damn it, Nathan! You just made me waste so much money on this.
Ah, yes, good. It all worked out.
But because of you, I got the Five Tall Tales, the Fu Manchu, and then the Columbia Noir #1. And those are 3 of hands down my favorite box sets in my collections. The amount of love and detail that they put into stuff like just blows Criterion out of the water, even blows Arrow out of the water. So amazing stuff. But it's all because of you that this stuff started, and I'm sure my wife's happy.
Yeah. Well, that's what I aim to please. I aim for people to buy out of print stuff and to spend all their money. But it's interesting. I mean, like you said, everyone has their own tastes. And when I started this channel, a few years ago now, I think it's almost been 4, maybe. I don't know. But when I started it, it was all about movie reviews, and I just would review films that were pretty much coming out at that time, and enjoying, the movies that, like, Princess Bride or like Lord of the Rings, stuff that have been a mainstay, obviously right behind me. Two of my favorite stuff, and for the most part, like, that's what I was focusing on, and it's changed a lot, and I've met literally in the last year and a half, it's been like a big upswing because we've been interacting with everybody. Because, like, honestly, with COVID, and I'm sure this is just an echoed sentiment that we've talked about a lot, but I've just with this community, I feel like we've all grown as people, and we've all been able to just interact and just hang out and talk about things that, like Aaron will make us buy Vinegar Syndrome, or I'll make you buy these Hammer sets, and these weird things that you wouldn't even think about, and it's like, oh well, why are they picking this out? I guess I'll check it out and see what it's about. And
and I think last year, physical media, it's probably the best year for it ever.
Yeah,
hands down. And
Heath
it
definitely
could not
got that
have
right.
Yeah, Heath did get that right, and it could not have come at a better time when all of us are locked in our houses doing nothing but watching movies. So and there's something like, I mean, I like Netflix. I have Netflix. I'm sure you have a Netflix account. But there's something so special about just grabbing a movie off the shelf and like physically having it. And something I was doing for a while there during COVID, like during like I mean, I'm sure we're not out of the woods yet, but during the thick of it, was I would have everything on my shelf, and I would walk in and I would just blindly pick a movie and make myself watch it. And it reminded me of the days when my parents would take me to Blockbuster, and they were like, you can pick one movie. And then I would always pick like The Matrix or Versus, and just be like, or Rollerball. And like, all right, we're watching these 2 great movies, 1 bad movie, so, but yeah, this has been the best year, I think, because I've always collected movies. I mean, even before my collection, I had the Lone Wolf and Cub set. I've had the Zatoichi set for, I think, since it came out. But this all blew up because of you guys.
Well, we're living in a good time for that to happen. And I mean, it's interesting that you bring up, Blockbusters. So, like, I guess this would lead into the film journey, thinking a little bit about those early memories. Like, do you have any like early associations with film and in general?
So every hobby in my life ties back to how I was raised. So whether it be anime or comic books / manga and movies, my parents owned a restaurant. I was telling you off air. My parents have owned a restaurant. I'm now co-owner, and eventually it will be mine 100%. But growing up, I had a room in the back of the restaurant where I had a TV, a VHS player. Eventually, we got a DVD player. And when I was a kid, like if you open up the back door of the restaurant, you could see this grocery store that's actually not there anymore, sadly. But it was the only grocery store in town at the time. And in this grocery store, they had a whole section where you could just rent VHSs.
Yeah,
so my parents would give me $1 a day. It was so great. My parents would give me $1 a day, and I would walk down there, and it's a safe area, so like, and they could see me walk around. It was a family-owned grocery store. My parents were friends with the owners, and every day I would come home with something to watch. And it started off kid-friendly films, but then eventually I noticed, oh hey, my parents aren't really paying attention to what I'm watching. So then I started bringing in like Terminator 2, which is my all-time favorite movie. And then I bring in Heat, and just like, just bring in all these movies that I probably shouldn't be watching as a little kid. And then everything in my life has always been around movies. So like, every Christmas, once we turned 16, all my cousins and I, every Christmas we get together, we'd eat dinner. And in our family, Christmas was like a whole day and night thing. Like, we'd get to my grandparents' house early in the morning, we'd eat, and then we'd play, board games, have fun. And then the kids, once we turned 16, would all drive, because it's like a 20-minute drive. We'd go see a movie. And one, I think like my favorite memory of this is I was a big fan of the girl with the dragon tattoo. I think it's Swedish, right? The origins. I was a big fan of that. So when David Fincher's Girl with the Dragon Tattoo came out, I was like, guys, we got to go see that. None of them have ever heard of it before, and they were like, what did we just watch? And I was like, this is an amazing movie. So we would alternate each year. Like I'd pick a movie, then my cousins would pick a movie, and then once I became 16, it was literally we would go to the movies every Monday and Tuesday because that's my days off work. We would just drive, and I mean, the only time I ever snuck out of the house was to go see a movie. We drove 45 minutes to another theater to see. God, it was in 2008. So I totally forget what movie it was. It was God, what's that Tom Cruise movie in World War II? Valkyrie.
Valkyrie.
We drove 45 minutes to see Valkyrie, and then my mom found out I left the town, because I was freshly 16. And when I got home, my mom's, it's gonna sound terrible, but my mom was, she was yelling at me, scolding me, and slapping me, and a cop pulled up, and the cops know my family, and not in a bad way. It's just we're a popular pizza place in town, so the cop goes, "What's going on?" And my mom goes, "Can you tell me what time curfew is?" And he goes, "Whatever time you say it is, Mom," and just drove away. And I was like, "Thanks, thanks, officer." So movies have always been a huge part of my life. And then growing up, when my parents first started their restaurant, they were like very poor, like super, super poor. And then eventually, now they're very comfortable. But at the time we didn't have a lot of money, and we were living in this very small, I think it was a 1-bedroom or it was a 2-bedroom apartment. And our fun thing to do was every week my family would save up money. We'd go to Blockbuster, and we would go to Jimmy John's. I'm sure you guys have a Jimmy John's down there.
We have a lot of Jimmy
Midwest.
John's down here.
Oh yes. I mean, our Champagne's the headquarters. So there's I think there's 7 Jimmy John's within.
Have you met Jimmy? I'm kidding.
I actually have met Jimmy.
That was a joke that actually backfired on me.
Yeah, I actually, he's a very perverted person. When I met him, I was a little kid. I was like 13. I've always had a unibrow. So I was getting it waxed, and he was talking about getting his balls waxed. And I was like, even at 13, I was like, you're a big, greasy, grown man. You should probably not speak like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I have met Jimmy, unfortunately. But our family thing was to go to Jimmy John's, and then go pick out, we go to Blockbuster. And my parents would pick their movie, and I'd watch it with them, and then they would let me pick one movie. And my mom would always look at the rating in the back, and she'd be like, do you think this is appropriate? She'd ask she'd ask the person at the counter, and they'd always just look at me, and I'd be like, say yes. I'd just say yes, and they'd be like, yeah, that's totally fine.
At least they were looking out for you over the cop, for this instance. The video store clerk.
My favorite memory of one of those, my mom being concerned about something, is I'm 11 years old, and my mom's friend, who was a family friend, took me on my birthday. We were supposed to go see something else, but we ended up seeing House of a Thousand Corpses.
Oh God.
And she called my mom. So this is actually probably why I said, I don't like horror movies. It's probably because I went through a phase where I did nothing but watch horror movies. I was obsessed with horror movies. I would buy every Dimension Extreme release that there was. I got really big into the French New Wave horror, Inside, Martyrs, Frontiers is incredible. But my mom's friend called her and goes, "Hey, is it okay if we go see House of a Thousand Corpses?" And my mom goes, "Is that appropriate?" And she goes, "I think so." And my mom was like, "All right, well, I trust your judgment." So I see this movie, and being 11 years old, I'd never seen anything like that in my life. I was like, holy crap, that's the best movie I've ever seen in my life. So so that following Christmas, I asked for House of a Thousand Corpses for Christmas. And my mom says that she asked the person working at Best Buy, "Is this appropriate for," at the time, I think I was 12. It was a year or so later. "Is this appropriate for a 12-year-old?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." And so she buys it for me. And I'm not kidding you. I'm one of those, I didn't have siblings. I didn't have internet growing up. So the way I would pacify my time was just watching the same movie over and over again, and then I remember finding out what commentary tracks were, and just listen to nothing but the commentary tracks over and over and over and over and over again. I would do picture in picture and be listening to the commentary track while playing like a campaign on like a random JRPG or something. So I get this film, and I'm not kidding. For years, I watched it probably once a day. Which it's looking back now, it's not the best movie. I do have a soft spot for Rob Zombie in my heart because of how much I love House of Thousand Corpses. But my mom was channel surfing one night, and it was just on like HBO or something. And she said she watched 5 minutes before she woke me up in the middle of the night. And she goes, "You need to give me your House of a Thousand Corpses movie right now." And at this time, I'm like 14, 15. So it's like, I'm at that age where I can watch it now. Yeah. She fucking took that part of my first. She took that disc and just broke it into a million pieces. And she was like, "You're never watching this crap again." She goes, "You're never buying a movie again." I was like, "You bought it for me." You know what I mean? I was like, "You bought it for me." So, but yeah, like movies have always been a huge part of my life. My dad, probably like one of my favorite, I want to word this right because it's a troubling time in my life. My dad had a heart attack when I was about 13. He's fine now, knock on wood, thank God. He's fine. But at the time, I was too young to really understand the like gravity of the situation. So my uncle, who is the youngest of my aunts and uncles, who I'm very close with still today, he's actually my god. He is my godfather, and we're like this. He brought me to his house and he showed me Mad Max, Jason X, and I See You, which is a Sylvester Stallone thriller. And I don't know why I love that movie, even though it's not the greatest movie. But like I can tell you, like the first time I've seen any movie in my entire life, like down to like what I was wearing. Films have had such a huge impact on my life. I like my favorite movie experiences of all time. My top two are I saw Grindhouse, the Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez film, at a midnight showing with a group of friends, and I think I was like 15 or 14 when that came out. So I went with a group of friends that could go, and having a packed theater react to that stuff was such a fun. And being like, being sub 16 and being like, "Oh man, I'm going to a movie at midnight." You're like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And then my second favorite movie experience ever was my parents. This never happened. My parents and I just happened to be in town together, and we had nothing to do, and we were like, "Let's go see a movie." I'm like, Quentin Tarantino's new film's out, so we went and saw Inglourious Bastards, and packed theater. And my parents aren't like big movie fans, but the whole theater stood up and gave a standing ovation. And I was so confused. I was like, "He's not even here. Like, why are we like,
what are we doing right now?"
I'm like, "Is Quentin coming? Like, what is happening?" But movies have always been just such an important part of my life. And I just, man, like, I still, like, I remember the first time I saw Kill Bill. I wasn't allowed to see Kill Bill, but my uncle was like, "Hey, Kill Bill's underneath, the TV, open it up, it's on the side." And just watching it and being
then you ask him, "Is this appropriate for?"
I'm like, "Is this appropriate?" And he's like, "Fuck you, shut up, just don't, just like whatever you do, just don't tell your mom." And I'm like, "All right, cool." But yeah, my mom tried to be as protective as possible of like what media I consumed. But like I said, I grew up in a restaurant, so I had a bunch of 16-year-olds as a young kid being like, "Hey," like I remember I turned 13 and they all bought me like a Playboy, Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas. Because my mom was like, "You can't play Grand Theft Auto."
Well, and so of course they're all gonna find that, and they're gonna like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get you that."
Yeah, so they they're all good kids. My parents were very particular with who they hired because they were around me as a kid. But they would hire all the skaters and stuff, and that's how I got into skateboarding and video games and anime was all from them. And yeah, it's just, I think without the restaurant, I wouldn't be into half the stuff that I'm into now. And it's just like, and I'm like really into stuff. Like when I get into something, it's just like you go overboard.
I can understand that.
And I
I
just
mean,
rambled for like 10 minutes straight.
oh, it's perfect, man. That answered exactly everything and more. And I guess it makes me think, once you were into those adolescent years when you became maybe 16 yourself, and like in those late teenage years, did you have like good memories of like when you got past being the one told to like watch these things, and you're like the one who like pretty much showed that to other people?
Oh yeah, I mean, my copy of Teeth on DVD circulated the high school for literally years. Like it was just like it became a thing that everyone just started handing to each other just to watch. And I think I didn't get it back. Like I gave it around my sophomore year. I didn't get it back till my senior year, and it didn't have a case. I was like, I don't even care anymore. Like the amount of people that were like, "Hey, I saw Teeth because of you." I was like, "That's rad." I mean, that's a ridiculous movie. But my biggest thing now is I was telling you off air, my wife grew up very, I don't want to say sheltered, but she grew up in a very small town, graduating class of like 20 people. She hasn't seen anything. Like she hasn't seen Star Wars. Her first Star Wars was The Last Jedi, unfortunately. Her, I mean, her first, like anything, like Quentin Tarantino movies, anything she hasn't seen. So my favorite thing now is we watch a movie almost every night, and I love showing her things I love and seeing her reaction to it. I think it's really cool. Like we're starting Game of Thrones. Um, she always seems to start stuff that I love when it's the worst because she watched the final season with me, and she was like, "This is amazing." I'm like, "You have no idea
This is
like
like this
how
is
good this."
actually this is actually the worst of the amazing, but it's
So
still
yeah,
amazing.
I mean, even with the last with the last Jedi, she was like, "This was incredible." I'm like, "You have no idea how good Star Wars can be, and this is not it. Like, this is I hate the Last Jedi so incredibly much, like Nathan, you don't understand." And I grew up a Star Wars fanatic,
Hmm.
and I have a theory: Star Wars is not good unless it's directly influenced by Japanese culture or Japanese films. So you have the original trilogy is inspired by Hidden Fortress,
I see where this is
and
going
then
with
and then
Mandalorian.
the Mandalorian is
Yeah.
inspired by Lone Wolf and Cub. Everything else is garbage. I did love Rogue One though. But man, this new trilogy, God, it makes me so upset because they had such a good setup. I think all the characters are great. I think all the actors are phenomenal. I think is it Daisy Ridley,
Hmm.
John Boyega,
John
uh,
Boyega. Yeah.
just those two. I think have so much. They're just such good actors, and they were just wasted on. I think a real like the first movie. I was like, all right, you're getting a pass because you're setting up these characters. Adam Driver is incredible as well. Um,
And Oscar
like
Isaac. I like him.
I love him. I think and that's the thing is like all these great ideas. Like you have a stormtrooper who broke out. Like, what is he thinking? Who is uh, Ren's, real parents? What's her backstory? Like, there's a lot of good mystery there set up to be fleshed out. And Ryan Johnson made, I think, the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life with The Last Jedi. And not to offend anybody, if your favorite movie is The Last Jedi, because I know a couple of people they're like, "It's my favorite movie." I'm like, I can't trust you. Like I wouldn't trust you to walk my dog. Like that's how much I don't trust you. When it comes to like when people are like, "My favorite movie is The Last Jedi." You want to watch this with me? I'm like, no, I'd rather watch paint dry than ever listen to anybody's opinion.
Well, I mean, that's a hot take, but I know that it's definitely one of those movies that is like for a long time for me, it was definitely I was on that board. I'm more in the middle now. I definitely I just I kind of see them. I mean, I grew up with Star Wars, and I mean,
Me too.
obviously, there's Grogu right there, peeking out. But I mean, I love it, but I just at the end of the day, I kind of just turn my mind off on a lot of the stuff, especially if it's like something I can't even I'll just watch Mandalorian, like that's the stuff I'll enjoy, and like I don't know, I'm weird about those things. one of those people who's like, I like to make everyone feel okay. So
I mean, no, like, and I'm being very.
oh, I'm sure.
I'm trying to be as funny as possible.
Yeah.
I like the last movie I saw in theaters was I chose The Last Jedi, or no, The Rise of Skywalker. Sorry,
Rise of Skywalker. Yeah.
over seeing Portrait of a Lady on Fire because they were playing in my theater
that was
time.
a dangerous move there.
And I was like, I was like, I've never heard of this, but now seeing it and owning it, it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh God, it's so
Portrait of a Lady,
good.
That movie changed me. Like I'm not even like being hyperbolic or anything. Like that movie, when I watched that, I bawled, I wept like a child. And the way it's shot too, because it was shot in 8K, and it looks like a literal painting. It's just beautiful. But yeah, that's the last movie I saw in theaters, and I still kick myself to this day. I'm like, I wasted, before COVID became a thing. I wasted my viewing time watching The Rise of Skywalker, which my problem with Star Wars is visually it's stunning. Every movie is visually just like wow. Like the artists who create this stuff are just talented. And then just the plot makes zero sense. So I'm just like, but yeah, I wish I would have seen Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which
I can understand.
That fucking movie is incredible.
Yeah, no, when I watched it not that long ago, actually, like it was such an emotional experience for me, and I didn't
even know anything about it going in. I think I blind bought it, but now looking back, 2019 was such an incredible year for movies. The Lighthouse being my favorite from that year.
The Farewell was one of my favorites.
The Farewell was so sad too.
Well, and I was about to go to China, so when I watched it,
dude, 2019 had so many good movies, and then I think was it Dragged Across Concrete? Have you seen that movie?
Mm-hmm.
S. Craig Zoller is becoming one of my favorite directors. Just incredible. I've read all his books now. He wrote a script for an ultra violent Western, and Amazon picked it up, and it's going to be directed by Park Chan-wook, the guy who did Old Boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I know him.
He's one of my favorites of all time. But that should be good. But man, 2019, just an incredible year for films. Just 2020, not so much.
Not so much with the new releases. Not with new. Hey, I mean, the last movie I watched in theaters was Invisible Man, I believe, which I really enjoyed.
Is that good?
Yeah, the remake with Elizabeth Moss.
I'm tempted to get the 4K of that.
I think I have the 4K. I have a steelbook of it. But anyway, yeah, it's a good movie. I really like it. It's a really good reimagination. I don't know if you've watched any of the Universal, like the classics. I know you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very different. But like it's a really great adaptation. So, well, adaptation would be a different word, but anyway, yeah, 2019, good movie year when it comes to theaters, but 2020, not so much. But
not so much. And then, how do you feel about everything going on to streaming, like all the HBO Max stuff?
So I actually do not own. I have HBO Max. One of the few people who don't.
Neither do I.
I
don't. But when Godzilla vs. King Kong comes out, I'm gonna get it.
Like maybe, yeah. Actually, a lot of my friends are. I'm in some chats where they're like just blowing up with that movie, which is. I mean, like I love Godzilla. You can't.
Me too. I mean, I'm a huge kaiju fan. I have every film. I have every kaiju film that we can get in the U.S. released, and I have every tokusatsu show that we can get released here in the States. But that stuff breaks my heart, man. I really hope when this is over that cinemas are still around, because there is a special feeling about even like after I became a dad, I would not see movies by myself ever. But when I became a dad and I had a few hours, like my wife's like, hey, you can go see a movie. I started really enjoying seeing movies by myself, just staying there in the theater and just, getting engrossed in it. But there's a magic of, especially like my daughter's generation. Like I hope they can grow up with how we would get a group of friends together and be like, hey, we're going to go see, Avengers, even though I'm not a big Marvel fan, I
It's
don't
an
own any
experience,
Marvel
though,
movies.
right?
It is like going to it's like going to like a theme park. Like I think Martin Scorsese says he was right. I think those movies are roller coasters. Like they are theme park rides, and there's something so special about getting, you know, 5 people together, going to see a movie, and all leaving being like, you know, like doing the moves, you know, in like the lobby and like
Hmm.
being goofy teenagers. And I hope that stuff is still around, you know, in the next
Yeah,
couple of years.
yeah, me too. I mean, that's the thing with, like you were saying, with HBO. That was a little, so it's like a little shady with the whole, you know, just, but it also makes sense, but also doesn't, and it's really complicated. And for me, I mean, I haven't been to the theater since March of 20, no, yeah, either like late February or early March 2020. And it's really bizarre for me because I know several of my friends who, you know, like maybe theaters opened up for like a brief second, right? Like Tenet came out or whatnot, and I still haven't seen that, but you know, like
It's pretty good.
things would pop up, you know, and then they would go away, and then like in different pockets of the world of my friends. And you know, it's weird because like that used to be such a mainstay. I used to go to the movie theaters like twice a week, and you know, and a lot of the times I actually did go by myself. And a lot of my favorite movie experiences, like watching A Ghost Story, First Reformed, The Farewell for the first time I watched it, like all of those movies that are super emotional. I remember watching by myself, and I'm like, if I watched this with anyone else, I don't think I would have had the same experience. But
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. It's weird, but I also do miss going to, you know, see, like I would have loved to see, even though I've heard mixed things about it, I would have still loved to go watch Wonder Woman 84 with some friends, like I always do with the superhero type movies, because I have a group of friends I always go to with these kind of films, because it's just an experience. We're just having a blast, and you know, like a lot of the times these movies aren't going to be that good, but you know, like with the Marvels, like yeah, these are pretty good movies and it's a fun time. But you know, it's, you know, it's an experience. And yeah, I really hope theaters come back and stay.
I really, I really, really hope so. And me and my wife are in like the pre-process of buying a house. And I told her we need to get a house with a basement because I'm turning the basement into a movie theater. Like we're gonna have a 4K projector screen. And actually, the best thing to come out of this whole lockdown is that we got a 4K television finally. We went region free. Um, so, and by region free, I mean a region free 4K player. Like I paid a little bit of extra money to get 4K region free
That's what I
player.
got for Christmas.
Incredible. I was region free because I'm a huge fan of anime, and the U.S. releases on anime. There's one company. So there is actually there's a boutique label called Discotheque, and they put out, I think, the best releases of anime. So I have every single release of theirs except for a handful of stuff. But what I love about them is that they will put out random obscure 1970 shows. Like this is a old mecha show from like 1974 or something. And then they'll put out very obscure tokusatsu shows. Like this is literally, I'm not joking when I say this. This is my favorite show of all time. Like I've seen this disc more than I probably should have. This is Mega Beast Investigator Juspian. So I love them. I collect every release up until recently because I was like, I can't be watching literally everything they put out because it's some of the stuff they put out is pretty bad. But and now I'm good friends with everybody on that team. So but in the anime world, you have like Funimation, you have Viz and Sentai and then Discotheque, and all of them feel very corporate.
Right.
But Discotheque feels like Arrow in the sense that they're putting out these they put out the big hits too. You know, like they have like the Lupin the Third stuff and
Mm-hmm.
City Hunter and like they put out Beyblade. But then they'll listen to the fans and they'll start putting out stuff that no one else is putting out, and they put so much love and attention and care into them. So my collection is mostly anime still. I have an entire shelf over there of anime. I have every single Discotheque release right here in this corner. I love anime, and I did at the time think it was the best art form for telling a story. that's kind of died down now. After I've explored cinema more, because I'm mostly like a action movie guy. Like I was telling you off air, my favorite movies are samurai films, Western films, and I have a soft spot for old school kung fu films. So like anything that has the Shaw, that has the Shaw Brothers logo
Yeah, the Shaw
on
Brothers.
it,
Yeah.
I will buy. I will blind buy it, even if I haven't seen it. Because I grew up with this stuff too. Like all the 16-year-olds were like, hey, you need to watch eighth, like the Eighth Diagram Pole Fighter. You need to watch 36 Chambers. You need to watch the Flying Guillotine. So I grew up with these movies, and now as an adult, they're super cheesy. They're very cheesy and very fun. But as a little kid on a VHS player on a TV that's like this big, watching these movies, you're like, oh my god, like this is mind blowing. So I'm still I have a very soft spot in my heart for that stuff. But because of people like you and people, I think when I think of people on YouTube, I think you have probably I don't know how to say this without sounding pompous, but there is like movies and then there's like cinema. You know what I mean? You and a couple other people have really pushed me to check out, like, without finding your guys' channel, I wouldn't have watched Ingmar Bergman. I wouldn't have watched Agnes Varda. I wouldn't have, without you. I told you on chat in like November, John Cassavetes.
Yeah.
And then the Three World Cinema Project box sets. I wouldn't have watched that stuff and have really enjoyed it and loved it without you guys. So, but yeah, there's like movies, and then there's like, and it's like when you say it, I feel like I should be holding my pinky out as I'm saying
pinky out.
But because of that, I've broadened my horizons, and now my movie taste is all over the place. Like I have a project this year with my wife that we're gonna watch 365 movies in a year. The first movie we watched was the Cremator. Which came out, which my wife was like,
check New Wave. Yeah.
It's so good. It's an incredible movie. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd. But my wife was like, this is so. She's like, you either like really artsy movies that I can't follow, or you like just dumb action movies that make no sense. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much my taste. I like flip flop. Like for a month, I'll do nothing but watch. Like I watched all of Bergman in 1 month.
Oh,
I did nothing.
I still haven't finished the box.
It's those documentaries really, really grained on me. The two he did about the island,
the Pharaoh documents.
Yeah. I cannot get into those at all. But I was watching like almost 2 movies a day for a while there. But yeah, like I love him. I can see why everyone loves that box set and why everyone is just so crazy about it. And then the same thing with Agnes. I watched all of her stuff probably in the span of about a month and a half, 2 months almost. Because I was like, I don't think I can do one director again. Like it was 1 month of nothing but Ingmar Bergman. Like everything changed for me. I started drinking, sparkling water. I started writing in cursive. I was like, give me some Perrier, please.
Started putting away the glassware that had like labels on it, and you're like, no, nothing on the glassware. It just has to be pure, has to be clean, as Danny DeVito would say, and Always Sunny.
Speaking of Danny DeVito, is off topic. My wife has always joked that her celebrity crush is Danny DeVito. So her birthday is the day before mine. Her birthday is the 28th, so it's in a couple days. So one of her gifts is a gag gift. I got her a sequence pillow. If one way it's just rose gold, it's her favorite color, but if you swipe down, it's Danny DeVito's face.
I love that.
So
can you send me one of those? That would be great.
Yeah. So I'm, I don't even think she's ever seen anything with Danny DeVito in it. I just think she knows who Danny DeVito is. But
I like how we went from all this high class to Danny DeVito, and who is like one of the highest class people out
Amazing
there.
guy. Amazing guy. He's just incredible. I mean, who? All right, so out of everyone in Hollywood, who do you think is like the nicest people? Because like for me, it's like probably like Keanu Reeves,
Danny
Tom
DeVito's up
Hanks,
there probably.
Danny DeVito, The Rock.
I don't really like The Rock though.
I'm not a big fan of him, and I'm not a big fan of his movies. But as a person, he seems cool.
Maybe
he seems a little fabricated though.
That's the thing. That's the thing I feel, because I feel like there's a front there, and I don't know if I feel it completely. It's like nobody can be like that. Like like with the other examples you gave, like those people are like nice, but like they're not like trying to show that, like that's just like their side stuff. Like they're not being like, Keanu Reeves, for instance, people discovered that he was nice. Like that's
like that's funding children's hospitals and just like random nice stuff.
But
like
he's not like telling people like, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like that's something The Rock would do. And
I would give a Rock the pass though, because I feel like our culture is very much like, hey, like I get like, so like my family, and I mean I'm doing exactly what we're talking about, like, but like my family will like donate to homeless shelters. Will donate like a big pan of pasta or something, but we don't post about it on Facebook. We don't really talk about it. We just do it. But I think our culture is very much, I'm going to do a good deed, but I'm also going to gain something from it by posting it on Facebook or on Instagram or something. But in my mind, at first I was like, that's not genuine. But at the same time, it's like a good deed is still getting done. So even if The Rock is completely full of shit, there's someone out there that was motivated by him. That was like, I'm getting up at 5 a.m. to go work out. So, but he will always be amazing for, I think it was Fast 5 or Fast 6 when he flexes out of the cast and it breaks. So speaking of Fast and Furious, Criterion, we need a box set. We
need a box set. I can't deal with this box set of the 8 films I have right now. Right?
You guys put out what did they put out, that terrible Michael Bay movie? What's
Armageddon or The Rock?
Both of them. Both those movies suck. Fast and the Furious movies are actually great.
Hot takes for the whole time.
No, I genuinely love Fast and the Furious. Like I genuinely love them with all my being. I think they are so stupid.
I came around on them. I came around on them. I was convinced by a few of my friends, Daniel and Chris, who both have their own podcasts, and are good friends of mine around where I live. And they've convinced me, like, I need something stupid in my life, and so those are the movies that are just like, what's going on?
I'm just amazed that they turned that into a successful franchise.
Yeah,
like that, like
not that great in the beginning,
and they retconned so much stuff that like because Tokyo Drift, Han dies, and then they were like, JK, like I'm actually like impressed that they were able to turn that into a cohesive story and go from like, and I genuinely think Fast 5 is one of the best action movies
it's a fun
in a
one.
long time.
It really is.
It's so, like, when I saw that in theaters, I was like, this is it. I love this. Like everyone else, I'm not big into street racing. As a young kid, you're like, oh, cool. This bald guy stealing VHS players out of a semi.
Yeah,
that's awesome. but then as you get older, and like the driving, like the like, because that safe was real in Fast 5. That like they actually had a real safe, and then for certain scenes they had a car inside of it that could only see through a little slit, and all that was real. All that driving was real. They actually destroyed that like bank that they built just for that scene. So like when you see that, you're like, oh my god, that's like incredible. They're starting to get really stupid, like really incredibly stupid. Like Fast 9's still not out, but like John Cena's in it.
Right.
Hobbs and Shaw kind of lost me,
Never watched it, so. Like
Idris Elba literally says he says genocide, shimicide, or something like that. Like he like downplays genocide in that movie, and I was like, whoa!
No, come on, guy.
Idris, come on, buddy. You need to quit taking bad movie roles, because he's a great actor, but Dark Tower, and then like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he needs to
Well,
be James Bond.
yeah, I agree. I think it's time to move on. Well, I guess before, because we've been all over the place a little bit, but I
We
would
have,
like
yeah.
to I would like to ask one thing, before we kind of end the festivities, because it's been a fun ride. It really has, and I mean,
Because we've
like,
been talking, me and
like
you have been talking for 2 hours. So
it's been a lot, but it's been awesome though. I've had
yes,
a
it
lot of.
has.
But no, I was going to ask you, like, currently, what are you watching? But and then also, like, piggybacking on that, what do you think, films, or just in general? This can be the bigger question, but like, where do you think that'll lead you to?
So what am I watching right now is I'm trying to get through all these samurai movies up here. I was telling you, Hit Amigo put out some incredible samurai movies. So I have their complete catalog minus the stuff like this that got eventually re-released. I don't like to double dip too much, and I noticed something that's unique to the anime community is that they'll buy a single release of something. Like they'll buy, like, let's say Gurren. Have you heard of Gurren Lagann?
Yeah, I have.
Part of the fandom and anime collecting is that they'll buy every single version possible, not just the best version of that show, but they'll buy like everything. Um, I don't understand that, and I'm really glad the movie collecting world doesn't really seem to have that. Um, but yeah, so I don't double dip, so I'm trying to get through everything here. But lately, on my days off, which are Monday and Tuesday, I like to do like a double feature. And lately, I've been picking like a Japanese, because I love Japanese films. I mean, everything in my life, my favorite video games, my favorite cartoons, my favorite comic books, my favorite films are all made by Japanese creators. I've just been obsessed with the culture. I've been obsessed with their entertainment that they put out since I was a little boy. So my favorite thing is I'll grab a Japanese movie and I'll try to pair it with a Western movie. So I want to start a podcast called like East versus West or something. You know, like you have an Eastern movie. But my favorite one I've done recently was I watched Heat and then I watched Versus, because I think those two are two of my favorite action movies of all time, and they're very drastically different. Um, so that's just what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to watch 365 movies this year, but I've been watching like I watched Too Old to Die Young, the Nicholas Winning Refn show,
Hmm.
and that was like 13 hours. So like I'm behind on these. I'm behind on these on my I think on Letterbox I've seen 12 films out of how many days it's been in the year so far. So I need to catch up
26.
soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I need to start doing like triple features. Um, but I'm just trying to watch 365 movies this year. Um, Eventually, I would like to create a website kind of like yours and kind of like document what my thoughts are on these films. Kind of look at stuff a little bit more critically, because it's so easy to just be passive when you're watching a movie and be like, "Oh, that was all right," but like I want to like start talking about why that was all right, why that movie was great. So I kind of want to start looking at stuff more critically. Um, and then where I think it'll lead me is with any hobby I get into, I overbuy and I overexpand, and then I start to trim the fat. So my manga collection was 2,500 volumes. Now it's less than 500. So I've trimmed a lot of it. And then with my movie collecting, I mean, as much as I love Bergman and I love Anyas and stuff, I don't think it's stuff I'm going to return to anytime in the future. So I have been selling some stuff off and trying to trim in the fat down until I have maybe two shelves full. Kind of like what I think Elliot Cohen's doing this.
Yeah, Elliot's doing. Yeah,
And like
he's cutting it back on his collection and slowly bringing things back. Yeah.
I'm kind of doing that too, but I've been doing that with any hobby, like video games, comic books, and then now it's movies. So I'm kind of just like, what do I want to collect? So what I want to collect is I want to collect every Hong Kong film that I possibly can, especially the old kung fu movies. I want to collect every samurai film that I possibly can, and I want to collect every Western film that I possibly can. Even like bad spaghetti Western movies, uh, there's like there's a certain like taste to it. Like there's a certain like level of grit, because Western movies made in Hollywood were very clean cut, very the action was very you know, like if you watch like Stagecoach, you know, some of
Right.
the stunts in that movie are greater than anything that's been in any spaghetti western movie. Um, spaghetti western's more grit by the characters and by the atmosphere. So for me, especially, you know, someone that grew up with grandparents who were from Italy, that they got a satellite so they could watch nothing but Italian television. And there's a channel that they would just play nothing but westerns, but they were all dubbed in Italian.
Mhm.
So growing up, I would just be like, wow, like this looks amazing. And really, you know, you look back on some of those movies and you're like, yikes. But
Yeah, right.
but I think now spaghetti westerns are starting to get the love that they deserve. For
Yeah.
a while there, you know, people would say, "Oh, it's one of the better." Like you would always hear it's one of the better spaghetti western movies. But I think there's a lot of really good spaghetti western movies. And then I also love collecting. Just want to show you real quick. I love collecting Yakuza films. So I'm a big fan of I'm a big fan of gangster movies in general. Um, you know, I love like even ones that aren't so good. Like I think recently we watched Black Mass with Johnny Depp, and I think that's a good movie, but it's not like top tier for me in my opinion.
Right.
But there's
I would
something
agree.
about. So I was telling you off air, my family's history is the pizza connection. So I know a little bit more about how gangster stuff works, like how like the mafia works. But Yakuza films in particular, because Japanese crime families, they have a whole, you know, honor system and honor code, and it differs from, you know, family to family. And there's a lot of like, you know, things that they do that have been passed down for hundreds of years. So there's like this mysticism to gangsters over there. So I've been collecting Japanese Yakuza films. This is Score. This is a very cheesy film. Imagine Reservoir Dogs, but with John Woo gunplay. So it's super bloody, super over the top. But this was a lot of fun. I was actually genuinely surprised by how good this was. This paired very well. See if I can find it before. I'm sure I'm just. Oh yeah, I did a double feature of this and The Gunfighter,
Oh
which are
wow.
two very different movies, but they paired so well. Because start off with this and then have The Gunfighter there, and then I think number one in this pack, Gonin, is one of the best Yakuza films ever made. So, we actually got quite a bit of Yakuza films here in the States. We got Tokyo Shock put out a ton of them, and then Arrows put out a bunch of Kenji Fukasaku stuff, which he might be my second favorite director. Shinya Tsukamoto is my favorite director of all time. So,
Those are some blind spots for me.
dude,
I,
you got to watch Tetsuo. You got
I
to.
will. I know.
You would love Tetsuo, man. Because it's a very metal movie. Like it is and I'm not just saying there's a lot of metal in that movie. But it's like a very punk rock, you know, looking film. You would love it, dude. It's so good.
I've heard really great things, and as a person who does love the metal, I would probably approve of it. So
You should, man, and you should try to hunt it down soon because it is out of print.
yeah, I know. Actually, I think I might have somebody who might have a copy that I can go steal from. So
That's good.
But anyway,
but yeah, so that's just where I'm at right now, and I'm loving kind of doing like I said, like kind of like picking what movies I think are gonna stay in the collection. And
yeah.
most of it's Japanese films because I love Japanese entertainment. So
Well, I'm doing something similar myself with cutting back on things, and I'm sure people who are watching this know that I'm kind of figuring out what I want to do with a lot of my collection because I have another whole shelf on the other side, and I have you know, almost 3,000 films now when it comes to Blu-rays. But like I need to cut back on some of it because not all of it I'm gonna like, you know, like you were saying with certain films, like I'll watch it once, but like I don't know anytime soon I'll be rewatching that, and like there's so many things to discover too. And so yeah, it's about prioritizing what you care about right now, right? You know, and what at the end of the day, what's going to stay in your collection. I like that that notion that Elliot's doing, yourself. I think a lot of us are really kind of trying to see and prioritize like maybe what we might you know, end up with, and you know that could change too, and like that's totally fine. because we could just, because we're all, you know, people who consume so much and we're going to get a lot, is that like it's still okay to continue to do that. And so people who are watching this, people who are like, who aren't content creators, are like what why are you guys getting rid of all these things? It's just like everyone has different things going on, you know. And
Also, it comes down to two things for me, is that like if I have a lot of something, I have the impulse to have all of something. So like if I get really, like for instance, I bought every Criterion box set that was available, like just because I had a couple, and I was like, well, I should probably pick up everything, right? And then I was, you know, and then you get them and you watch them. And also as a parent, my wife has been very gracious to, you know, because when you get married and have a kid, you don't have a lot of space. So I've been very gracious to have a man cave. So she's, you know, let me, and when people say, oh, she allowed you to, when you get married, you'll understand. You know, it's very much about compromise. It's very much about sharing the space, because we only have 2 bedrooms here. Well, 2.5, you know, in a bath, in two bathrooms, and so this is like my man cave, and eventually, when we get into a bigger space, because we're going to expand our family, I can't take all this stuff. And also the thought of having to move everything is like a nightmare. So, you know, throughout the years, you know, just throughout the last couple of years, I've been selling stuff, and doing that with movies now. And I think, you know, this shelf right here is going to stay. Like everything you see here is like my favorites. This is like my go-to shelf. This one and the one behind me right here. And then I have 2 other shelves over here that are very much like you know, like stuff I haven't seen yet, or you know, random TV shows and stuff. So, but I'm probably gonna start a new series every month where like I show off everything I watched and then throw it in the keep pile or the no pile, and eventually sell it. So,
well, that actually makes me think. You know, like you mentioned this, but like where can everyone find you? I know several people who probably are watching this know where, like, who you are. But I'm curious to where all the places that people can reach out.
You can find me on YouTube under Flip Otaku. I noticed, because I used to do anime and manga videos, I shot up to 6,000 subscribers, and then when I changed what I was covering, because I started doing Blu-rays and stuff, my viewership died down. So I was like averaging 1,000 views, over 1,000 views of video, and then I completely abandoned that old, like, I don't like the word fan base, but like my old subscriber base. So I'm on YouTube. I'm going to be doing more movie reviews. And then I'm on Twitter, the same thing. I'm on Instagram, and now I have a letterbox. So if you guys want to follow me on letterbox and keep up with my project of 365 movies in a year, you can. So
those will all be in the description down below. And yeah, I was going to say, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the folks?
I just want to say thank you, Nathan, for having me on, man. The thing I love about this whole community is that it's very welcoming. It's very it's like everyone's just like old friends, it feels like. You know, especially a big shout out to, you know, besides you, Aaron and Brian, Aaron Pinn and Brian Sauer, who does Just a Disc podcast. Aaron was probably the first person who like was like very welcoming and like actually like checked out my videos from like this group. So I wanted to give a big shout out to them. Shout out to Elliot Cohen. He's a super rad guy. But that's about it. And Nathan, if you're ever in the area, pizza's on me, man.
Dude, well, I mean, I just got to go a little north, and we got it. So I mean, I'm definitely and I've been there before too. So up where you're at, so I definitely know the area a little bit. So I'm excited to, once things kind of die down and traveling can be admitted again. I would love that, man.
Yeah, hell yeah, man.
Well, yeah, I want to say thank you so much, Flip, for being a part of this. I'm really happy that we were able to talk, and I hope everyone had a good time. I know we were just you know, talking about so many different things, but I think a lot of these great memories and discussions and stories that you had sparked a lot of probably things that people watched. Yeah. And
I do want to say one thing. I have a really bad speech impediment. So rambling, and if you see me like randomly throw like a curse word out, I noticed that I can in my brain I can sense when I'm going to trip over my words. So if I throw a curse word out, it helps me not stutter. It's something I used to be very bad with it when I was a kid. So if I'm kind of rambling all over the place, it's also like me having anxiety of crap, I'm going to stutter. So I apologize if I was a little all over the place.
Not at all, man.
Very, 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 very sorry about that. But thank you for having me on, man. And let's do this again soon.
Yeah, I would love to, man. And like I was saying, I hope everyone learned something. And there's a lot of really good things that we talked about. And I'm curious. There's a lot of things I got to write down of some stuff I gotta watch now. And I hope everyone's buying stuff now. That's apparently what I do. It's to pressure people to buy, which I love.
Don't buy the Hammer sets like I did. All right, if you're not already a fan of that stuff, don't blindly go into 5 box sets.
Some of them are good though. But anyway,
they are pretty good, but just don't spend over $300.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, this was a blast, man. But I hope everyone enjoyed it. Give it a like, comment down below. We'll be reading the comments. We'll be interacting with all of you. Don't forget to share the video, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time, guys.